I wish I never slept there. I had always enjoyed hiking, but venturing out alone wasn't something I was used to. Still, I decided to challenge myself with an 8-hour hike through a remote mountain trail. The day started like any other adventure. Crisp mountain air, the sound of birds chirping, and the rustle of leaves as the wind wove its way through the trees. The trail was surrounded by towering evergreens and dense bushes, and for most of the day I felt at peace, immersed in the tranquility of nature. It wasn't until I decided to head back to my car that things started to feel off. The sun was sinking fast, bathing the forest in hues of orange and red, and I knew I needed to pick up my pace. But as I retraced my steps, I realized the trail didn't look familiar anymore. At first, I tried to convince myself that I had simply overlooked a turn, or that the fading light was playing tricks on my mind. But as the minutes stretched on and the landscape became increasingly unrecognizable, a cold knot of panic settled in my stomach. Night descended quicker than I anticipated, swallowing the forest in darkness. I had a flashlight with me, but its weak beam barely penetrated the dense blackness. I knew it was too dangerous to keep wandering blindly through the forest, so I started looking for any place I could take shelter for the night. That's when I saw it. A cabin, barely visible through the trees. The structure was old and decrepit, its wood weathered and cracked. It looked like it hadn't seen a soul in years. But at that moment, it felt like a lifeline. I approached cautiously, my flashlight flickering ominously. I knocked on the door, the sound echoing eerily in the stillness, but no one answered. With no other choice, I pushed the door open. The inside was as run down as the exterior, but to my surprise, a single bed stood in the middle of the room. It was neatly made, the sheets surprisingly clean, as if it had been waiting for someone. I hesitated. The thought of an angry owner, or worse, something more sinister, crossed my mind. But the exhaustion from my hike and the looming threat of spending the night outside overpowered my fear. If someone comes back, I'll explain, I told myself. They'll understand. Or so I hoped. I settled into the bed, trying to ignore the unease crawling up my spine. That's when I noticed them. Paintings, dozens of them, hung haphazardly around the room. Each one depicted a different person, their faces locked in unsettling smiles. Their eyes seemed to follow me, gleaming with an unnatural light in the dimness of my flashlight. The smiles were too wide, too predatory. I tried to shake off the feeling, telling myself they were just old, creepy portraits. But the longer I looked, the more it felt like those painted eyes were truly watching me. I turned away, pulling the blanket over myself, and squeezed my eyes shut. The day's exhaustion finally took over, and I drifted into a restless sleep. When I woke up the next morning, the first rays of sunlight streamed through the room. I stretched and sat up, ready to put the bizarre night behind me. That's when I froze. There were no paintings on the walls. Instead, the room was surrounded by windows, and through each window, I saw them. Those same smiling faces, pressed against the glass, cracking it. I close my eyes, thinking this was the end. It is just a bad dream, a voice whispers.